Hi everybody, welcome here in Baarn in the Netherlands, everybody watching on YouTube live. We're here today for our open space meetup. We are the Dutch Android user group. And I'd like to say welcome to you all. We're here at VX Company premises, Dutch consultancy firm, doing of course mobile stuff. And like I said, we are the Dutch Android user group. This is our URL. I don't do this by myself. We are with a team of 4 organizers, Arno, Dennis, Wiebe, and myself. And we have launched the group at DroidCon NL, the first big Android conference in the Netherlands. It will be hosted again this year, same time, November. We have monthly meetups. We are supported by various companies. We have a Dutch focus in the Dutch spread. There are a couple of mobile development groups in Amsterdam, but we thought it was a good thing to have an Android group with the Dutch spread because there are a lot of Android developers in the east, in the west, and the south. So there we are. We are a open group, free membership, and currently we're nearing the 300. I think the count was 297. So if you want to join and be number 300, you're very welcome. Of course, we are present on the various social media, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So you can find us everywhere. We're like a plague. Upcoming meetups. We host, together with the Dutch Google Technology User Group, we host the Google I/O Extended in Amsterdam at the Google premises. So if you didn't get a ticket in the big lottery, then please join us there. And another thing we're going to host is a code challenge somewhere after summer holiday. Then, what we are here for, open space. And I chose a picture of an open space, and somebody once said the universe is a large or pretty big place, and I tend to agree. It's probably the biggest place out there. But I want to say the same thing about Android. The Android movement, the Android community, the Android momentum, so to speak, is a pretty big thing. And another thing we also start encountering with our assignments, that the Android skills and the demand for people knowing Android is increasing more and more. So we even have to say no to some customers. And so that was maybe one of the biggest reasons to start the group. We aren't competing against each other. And I say that to all the Dutch developers, of course. We are contending and working with each other to build better Android apps. And that was one of the main reasons to start this user group. Okay. The open space theme is together we can build awesome apps. And I'd like to stand still a little, take some time to focus on each of these lines. The first one is together. I was a former web app developer, and we could get away with an OK design, large lists, and maybe some CSS coloring. But once I started Android development, you really have to, well, it's a joy to have a graphics design on board. And you start to appreciate them more and more because they have a great feel, and they've studied for user experience, and they know their graphics very well. They know Photoshop better than I. So it's a real joy to have a graphics designer on board. And of course, we need that salesperson who sells those features which aren't in Android, the Android framework itself. So we have to program them. Sometimes it's an annoyance to have a salesperson sell more than you can do. But on the other hand, it's very challenging. And of course, we need testers, people to test our apps on various devices. And last but not least, we need the users who work with our app. And those things are really coming together with mobile app development, in my view. And the second thing is we can build awesome apps. And there's nothing holding us back. We have the tools. We have the support from Google. The tools, the design website is getting better and better. And so it's a really exciting time for Android developers. And then awesome apps. The term was launched last year, I think, by Nick Butcher. Before that, we only had to develop good apps. But at some point, we had to develop awesome apps. And today, we also want to get an answer to what are awesome apps. And we have to ask ourselves the question, are we really building awesome apps? Or are we taking shortcuts to meet the deadline and build not so awesome an app? So these are the things we want to talk about today in the open space meetup. And we Dutch tend to put proverbs like this on a tile and stick it on the wall. And so that brings us back to with both feet on the ground from outer space, back in Bar, the Netherlands. And I'd like to hand over now to Rich, who is joining us from the Google office in the UK. And so the stage is yours, Rich.
Thank you very much, Johan. Thank you for the together introduction for the Open Space Meetup. As Johan said, I'm Richard Hyman. I'm an Android developer advocate at Google. And today I'm coming from our lovely Android flight pod. If you look at the back over there, there's some Androids trying to break in because Androids want to be in here so much. This is where we do our weekly office hours from. So if you're not on Google+, quick shameless plug, if you're watching it on the live stream and you're not on Google+, then it's a great place to have Android discussions. There's continuous Android discussions going on Google+. And if you are on Google+, make sure you're following us at Plus Android Developers. And you can find out the details of our office hours there. We run 3 hours a week, and you can come in live in the Hangout, much like this, and just ask questions. But today isn't about that. Today is about the Dutch Android user group. And if things got a bit freaky in this, it's because I'm trying to edit the YouTube live stream with this hand at the same time as doing the presentation with this hand. But let's try that. So the slide says Android update, but it should be awesome apps or awesome apps together. And I'm going to get in the way of it slightly just for a little exciting interlude at the start instead of going straight into the little awesome apps talk. But it's something exciting, and I have to do it inside Johan's theme of togetherness, and together we can build awesome apps. So how about together we can make more money? There you go. Seems reasonable. So recently on Android, we had a new way to monetize. Slides are updating about 5 seconds after I press the button. And we kicked off a while back. We had the original paid applications on Android. You had your free app, you upgraded to a paid app, you make some money. Then we added in-app billing. Slide updates. There we go. And with in-app billing, you can have virtual goods, consumables, and almost all of the top grossing apps now use in-app billing. And the interesting fact, total in-app billing revenue has now exceeded total traditional paid revenues, which is kind of cool. And then we added carrier billing. Carrier billing allowing people to pay for items directly on their phone bill. And every country that we add carrier billing into, you see this multiplication of the amount of sales going through that country. And we're trying to roll it out in more and more countries. And then we also added credit card sign-up, so more monetization. This is maybe a little one because it's only for those ice cream sandwich customers, but when you buy a new ice cream sandwich device, you get to, on the install flow, when you first turn it on, it asks you for your credit card details, optionally, for the Google Play Store. That's fair enough. But all these things add up to a benefit to the developer, more monetization, to the point where now I'm hearing regular quotes from our partners, things like, Android users spend more than 50% more this year than they were doing last year. And if more and more partners are saying that, then it's a good indication that all these things that we've added on to the Android platform to help monetization are working. So what's new? What's the exciting thing that I've broken through the slides for? Of course, if you're following Android at all, you'll know it's subscription billing. And subscription billing is particularly awesome because it lets you re-monetize existing customers. And it looks like this. Click the button. Wait, there we go. No? It looks like this. There you go. The flow is managed through the Google Play Store. And it's very similar to in-app billing. So you're inside your application, someone presses a subscribe button, you make a communication with the Google Play Store, and then it pops up a dialog saying to the user, in a trusted window, would you like to subscribe to this? And it will tell them whether it's monthly or yearly subscriptions, the amount it's going to be. And then the middle screen shows the Play Store subscription screen where users can manage those subscriptions. So at any time they can just swipe through the Play Store, see everything they're subscribed to. They can choose to cancel those subscriptions if they want, so keep the value adds inside there. And then the last one is just showing the things you subscribe to in that one app. A couple of extra little things inside subscription billing. It's monthly or annual subscriptions. It's based on the in-app billing APIs. You just have to set API version to 2, and then you can make the subscription call instead of the purchase call. They're auto-renewing. So once you've got a user to subscribe, each month or year, depending on what it is, you don't have to do anything, any interaction at all. We'll email the customer, tell them they're going to get billed, take the money, and then just give you the proceeds that you're due. So it can't be too bad at all. And there's APIs now. We didn't have server-to-server APIs with in-app billing, but we do with subscriptions, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to extend those to cover in-app billing as well. The HTTP APIs, there's 2 of them, one for validate and one for cancel. And it means that from your server, you can check if a user is currently subscribed. And that's quite important because a user can go into the Play Store and unsubscribe, and you may not know. You can check from your application, clearly as well. And also if a user emails you to say they'd like to cancel their subscription, instead of you telling them to go to the Play Store and find the subscription screen and find the subscription, you can use our API to do it from your server. So that's kind of handy. So that's subscription billing wrapped up in 5 slides and spoken through relatively quickly. But hopefully together, I keep looking down because my other screen's down there. Hopefully together, we can all make even more money with subscription billing. And that brings us round to Google Play, which hopefully you all know and love by now. It's the new brand for the Android market with the 4 content verticals: music, books, movies, and then apps/games. It's rolling out globally, all those content verticals, and we're going to work together because there's a massive audience. Looking at the current set of figures, you've all seen these kind of things enough times before, so I'm not going to run through them. But I was looking at them the other day, and one of them just seemed particularly relevant: 15 billion app installs. And I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, when we announced previous numbers of app installs, and when other stores did the same, and thought that top app stores now must be shipping more than 1 billion downloads per month. If I was in the room with the audience, I'd say to the audience, how many zeros are there on 1 billion? I'm going to say it anyway. How many zeros are there on 1 billion?
9.
9. That's good. You get Shrike for that. See if you can catch this. It's a little Android.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Awesome. So, get back to the slide. And the average app size, I don't know, you can think that it's got to be over 1 megabyte now. Even Facebook's 4 or 5 megabytes. Angry Birds is 20 megabytes. So if you take, just say it was 1 megabyte, and that's another 6 zeros. And 9 zeros from 1 billion, 6 zeros from 1 million, put it all together, you get 15 zeros, which I think is probably a petabyte of downloads a month going through these stores, which is enormous, and of course, something you want to be part of and something you want to be in the big numbers inside. So let's look on how we can succeed in Android together through creativity and innovation. Slides have frozen. There we go. also called working together, slow slides, with a designer. And this is different now to when Nick was talking about awesome apps and designers last year at the DroidCon in Holland that Johan mentioned earlier. We know about that now. We know about android.com, developer.android.com/design. We know about buttons without borders. We know about screens that load slowly. We know about grids without grid lines. These are all now part of the Android design language that we're using every day. You can let things shine through, but we're keeping the Chrome to a minimum. We know about touch that feeds back. Everything on a touchscreen needs to respond to the user so they know. This is all just part of the tools that we use every day now. And we know about controlling the system to make your content the most important thing on a page. You can hide that navigation and bring forward the standout parts of your application. So that's what we did last year for DroidCon. Now we're thinking forward. We're thinking about taking principles that designers have used for other systems that need to scale across different screen sizes and applying them to Android. We're talking about buzzwords that are newer to the Android ecosystem than the previous buzzwords we've used. So not just designing an app that scales to fill any screen, but designing and building an app whose components individually scale to enhance the overall experience with minimal effort for the designer and for the developer. So if your designer understands the principles and you understand your designer, preferably you sit next to each other. It can lead to faster development of apps that are easier to maintain and that look great on all screen sizes. We're looking at, as I mentioned in the previous slide, not just an app that scales to fit the whole screen, but individual components that when you lay them out differently, know how to fill the space. And the designer who's designing the application can look at the components and figure out how best to describe them to the developer, so when you're building this component, he knows it will work on all the screen sizes. And the developer understands the designer, so that as you build your application, you stop thinking in the same mentality that you have to build a phone app and a tablet app. You're thinking in the mentality that you have one app that no matter what the screen size is going to fit nicely and fill and just be laid out in a sensible manner. And hopefully, looking at the responsive design slides from Kirill at slideshare.net, Kirill Cool, where I stole these graphics from, and looking at books on responsive design and other things, there's loads of material about this from the web development world. Designers and developers can work together to produce applications that just flow beautifully. And the next thing, when you've got that application that is working perfectly smoothly, designed to work across all the different screen sizes, you're going to think, we're going to make it even more awesome. For that, you're going to innovate together. You're going to bounce ideas off each other. You're going to discuss projects. You can discuss them on Google+. You can discuss them at Android user groups, more and more of them around the world. And you can make the awesome happen through passion. It's the developer's passion and the designer's passion that always makes an amazing application. And the innovation also drives discussion, and discussion is just another word ready for free PR. And when we look at some of the innovative apps that have come out across the mobile platforms recently, you see groundbreaking UIs, new design patterns, bezel gestures, stacked scrolling lists. Maybe Pulse was the first application to do the stacked scrolling, horizontally scrolling sets of information stacked on top of each other. That turned out to be such an easy way of browsing through so much of the content on a portrait screen. I don't know. But since they did it, there was a lot of discussion at the time, and then other people have adopted it as well, and we have this new design pattern, which is the horizontally stacked scrolling lists. The same goes for other companies as well, and recently we've seen side navigations coming in, apps swiping across to one side to reveal navigation. These things, whoever does it first, they break new ground, people talk about it, we talk about it internally, the editorial committee talk about it, and eventually we make a decision one way or another whether we like it, but it did cause people to talk. And that goes for a set of other applications as well. So YouTube, they added the second screen experience on. So you could press a button and it would play on your living room TV, or really any other web-enabled device. It was very simple to set up. You go to youtube.com/maybe-activate. It tells you when you press the button. And from that point on, using your phone, you can tell the other device what to play. It's a relatively simple innovation that works quite well. People talk about it. We have the instant heart rate monitor. Became part of one of our promotions, I think maybe the 10-10-10 promotion last October. Someone sat there with shining a light at their finger and figured out they could tell the difference between the red when the blood was pulsing or not, something clever like that. And it actually works quite well. It calibrates against your finger, and you can read your heart rate just by putting your finger against the camera on the back of the smartphone. Again, innovation that made us talk about it and got them featured inside the Google Play Store. Ion Road and Yelp, innovation again. Ion Road using computer vision to detect when something horrible is going to happen. It's a reasonable use for computer vision. The whole thing goes red and starts flashing if something is coming towards you. I think also it will start taking a video if you're in potential peril. Foursquare did something quite simple. We all know Foursquare, and they used the ice cream sandwich Android Beam APIs on the me page, the list page, and the venue page. So if you just touch two devices together, you'll follow each other if you're on the me page. Or if you're on a venue page, you can check in together. And it's using the newer technologies inside Android to create just a much nicer, easier experience for users. And of course, we like it because we like anything that promotes our current technologies. So maybe they get an extra bump for that. Then, this is probably one of my personal favorites. The driver feedback test, which you have to just go and try for yourself if you're a driver. Or even better, if you're a passenger. You can load this up and run it when somebody else is driving, and they'll get a score for how good or bad their driving is. Based on acceleration, braking, cornering, you can try and drive the scores up or down. I don't know which side of it you want to be on. Do you want to have a high score or a low score? Depending on whether you're a rally driver or just trying to get around the city. So that's innovation plus responsive design, working together, all that to bring awesome Android apps. And also, it looks like we just got through 33 slides in 15 minutes together. So thank you very much. And if it was too fast, you can watch it on YouTube later, because it's going to be on the live stream. But I will open the floor to any questions, if there are any. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's put up some questions here.
That's a green screen. Oh.
There you go. We're back. Any questions from the audience about what Rich told? Anything? No? We'll do some...
They don't just need to be questions about being together. They can be anything about Android or Google Play.
Yes.
It's not about roadmaps or things that haven't been released yet.
I'll open up the questions.
Technical.
We have
So
some
yeah,
burning
whilst
questions.
got these on, think about maybe some other questions, even if it's about a project you're working on at the moment. We've just got this one chance until next Wednesday. Some burning questions. Go on, Johan, sorry.
Okay. Well, this was a great pitch, and thanks for that, Rich. We've heard about the Google Developer Days. They've been in Paris, in Prague, and Berlin. When are you and the team coming to Amsterdam?
So, although we didn't organize a Google Developer Day in Amsterdam last year, the team did come out and speak at the Dutch Android user group.
There you
go. But I haven't heard any plans for Google Developer Days this year, so I can't really comment on it yet. Whether that's just because Google I/O is coming up or whatever, I'm not sure. But I'm doing far more of these, or the whole team is doing far more of this wider outreach during Hangouts and trying to meet more people around the world. The ecosystem is very big these days.
Yeah.
I have to do a developer day in every country. So this can be far more effective. And doing developer.android.com/training and developer.android.com/design helps or can benefit more developers.
Yep.
But in answer to your question, I don't know.
Yeah, we get regular updates of the Google Plus app, and we're seeing more and more UI design patterns. Look like your one app to try out different UI patterns. We saw something with the latest updates, the slide out menu. Is it going to be a standard UI pattern? Is it going to be on the design website, or what's your view on that?
You know what? Well, other than saying at the start of that thing I can't discuss any future releases, we are discussing design patterns internally. We're reviewing the Android design website. Of course, if we release a design pattern, it would be nice to have some sample code that goes along with it, and then tutorials and trainings and other things as well. So whilst we are reviewing new design patterns, I can't comment again as to which ones in particular we may choose. But just watch developer.android.com/design is the best thing I can say, and hopefully new things will arise.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree though, I really like this slide out pattern, and when I see it in applications, as long as there's an obvious affordance on the screen so that the user knows that it's there. And a lot of people are overloading the up button in the corner, so when you're back on the home screen you press up one more time and it slides out. These kind of things to at least make it obvious that it's there.
Yeah.
And it can be really useful.
Yeah.
I like it.
Next one is from Dennis. You want to
yeah, well, I was wondering, with the release of Honeycomb, where okay? Oh, there. With the release of Honeycomb to support the new UI design patterns, we were presented with the support packages for the older Android versions, which inevitably led to the situation that as a programmer you have to switch between programmatically switch between the two frameworks. Is there any way that in the future, or is there in the future something done about this, or are we stuck with this split in programmatically?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. So if you look at what's a good example? Fragments.
Yeah.
I assume is what you're talking about mainly.
Yeah.
If you're going to use fragments all the way back to the early API levels, we have a support package for that runs across all devices from the early API levels all the way up through Ice Cream Sandwich. But if you're only going to use it for Honeycomb and Ice Cream Sandwich, then you can use it without the support package. But you don't need to have an if statement saying if Honeycomb, don't use the support package, and if not Honeycomb, use it. Well, in fact, we do have two versions of the support package, one for the newer APIs and one for the older ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe I didn't answer the question. Maybe I didn't get the question. Maybe I'll fire a laser at you instead.
Well, inevitably, if you want to bundle your application in one single app,
Uh-huh.
At some point you have to more or less do an if statement to figure out whether you're on an old Android version or not.
But that's what the support package was put in for, so you wouldn't need to use that if statement for anything that's in the support package. If you don't have the support package, you would need to use the if statement because you'd want to use fragments on Honeycomb and not on before. But with the support package, we have a library works across all versions of Android without the if statement.
Yeah, I think that answers.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions, either from the audience or from the big orange blob on the screen?
Yeah. So the audience is thinking hard. I see a couple of.
When is ADT?
Okay, come on. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so look on that.
Where do I have to look?
There, this one.
That's perfect.
I have to look in there. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Dan, hello.
All right. So I know you're not allowed to say when ADT 20 is coming, but I saw some really cool stuff with improved properties window and that sort of thing. I think.
Some updated lint.
The new listings and stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. Any idea when we're getting that, or?
So you can download the preview now and run it yourself. If you go to tools.android.com, you can just get the preview package for ADT 20 and run it. It's not necessarily recommended on a production machine. I use the preview tools on my home computer, and I use the production tools on my work computer. But you can get it from tools.android.com. The package is there for you to install. I don't know when they'll release it. Usually it's within a couple of weeks after the preview, but I don't know. They release so quickly at tools.android.com. They're on version 20 already, right? Did you know you could get the preview version now?
Yeah, actually I had heard of that, but I'm kind of weary of doing that. I've had some bad experiences in the past. I know Hugo knows about my troubles with that. But I have been looking forward to the improved, especially the properties window with getting color previews and better selection of resources, sort of strings and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm kind of weary of course using preview.
There was some extra syntax highlighting in there, right?
That I don't know about. That would be great too, of course.
Okay, yeah. I haven't checked out the Tools 20. Well, I've checked them out, but I haven't installed them yet. I'm still one step behind. But.
All right, sure. Check out the preview. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Arthur.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I have a question about the ADT also.
Okay.
On the developers blog, do you have like a technical roadmap of what you expect to include in the following releases? But I don't find it that elaborate. Do you have like any plans for the coming 1 or 2 years on what you're going to include in the ADT?
I can't talk about that, unfortunately. Everything that we have is at tools.android.com, and that is all developed in the open, so you can see what they're checking in. But I don't know how far ahead their roadmap goes, so I wouldn't dare to comment on it right now. Sorry.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you at least for the answer, because yeah, it has some very general information. Maybe it would be cool to say, well, we're gonna work on the new core data for Android, or we're gonna include scalable factor graphic in 2013 or something. That would be very informative. But thanks for the answer.
I'll mention it to the tools people when I next see them. I've got a question for the audience.
Okay.
Sure. So how many of the people in the audience are using the newer hardware-accelerated emulator? And by hardware-accelerated, preferably Intel HAX plus the OpenGL, so both versions of hardware acceleration in one emulator.
Yes.
We'll talk in percentages. No, we see about 4 hands, Rich.
Are the people in the audience who are not using it because they're not Android developers, or they're not aware of it, or there's another problem?
That's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah. At least on my machine, the Intel stuff is breaking my VirtualBox. So.
Okay.
I
You're
can
on a Linux machine.
And I need VirtualBox or something.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand it can be slightly trickier on. Was that on a Linux box?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried it with a WXGA screen.
Yeah.
I tried to resize it to about 3 or 6 inches or so, and I saw really odd graphics, so I didn't use it well. But mostly I do on real device development.
Mostly I do real device as well. But the one thing one of the things that the new emulator gives you over a real device is the frame rates are good enough to make videos of. So you can run your game, even your OpenGL game, or your application in the emulator, and even if it's playing video, you can use video capture to capture the emulator and use it for your Play Store listing. So there's no reason why any app on the Google Play Store doesn't have a video on its listing now, because it's quite easy to capture the application using the hardware emulator. So
we'll definitely give it another try.
I love the new emulator.
Yeah.
People complain about the emulator so much that it's good we've got one that works now.
Okay, then one, and the audience starts thinking again about questions. One from the queue. You have been using IntelliJ IDEA. You have been we read that in your stream. Do you know if Google is going to support or help IntelliJ with their plugin? Because of course you're focused on Eclipse. Can you comment on that?
All I know is that the tools team are making it easier for the IntelliJ team to integrate the tools with each release, so that each of the tools releases they're binding them less to the Eclipse platform. They make them available to run via a library or run via the command line, so that it should take the IntelliJ team less time to catch up each time that they release new tools. So it's definitely in mind, and there are people at the company like myself and even part of the tools team using IntelliJ. So yes, I'd say.
And are you still using it?
Yes, very much so. I'm still using IntelliJ. I still find it responsive, easy to use. It's nice that you don't need to install the ADT plugin, that it's already there for you. You just install IntelliJ. If you've got the Android SDK on your system, you're up and running. And so far, I haven't done any really complex projects in it yet, so I shouldn't comment too much.
Right.
Single projects which aren't using many libraries other than support library and things like that.
Yeah.
They're working really well.
Are you using the community edition or paid version?
Right now, because I'm just using it to test out, I'm just using the community edition.
Yeah. Okay.
If I switched to my main environment, then I'll probably get the paid one.
Yeah.
It's probably required for business use, isn't it?
Okay.
I love it.
One from Wiebe.
It's always the easy questions that I find more difficult. What's the best approach to make a linear layout or text view with a black border around it? Just set your background drawable, or?
Well, there's a few things. Number one is, yes, you could definitely just use a background drawable as an XML, as a shape XML, or a background drawable as a picture.
Yeah, programmably you can do a image with a gradient drawable, I think, with a radius.
You can do this. Personally, because you still want some flexibility over the drawable, I'd probably go for a layerless drawable, so you can set a background image, then you can set a shape to be the border around it as well if you want. You can set a gradient over the top of the whole thing if you want, and you can choose, if you're using the XML file to define it, how the background image is tiling. So if it's a repeating background image, you can just say tile it or stretch it. So I prefer to define, if you're going to use a border like this, define it in a layer XML file, so that you have the flexibility to then say, I want my border shape, and I want a picture, and I want a gradient, and other things like that.
Okay, thank you.
If you are going to use a picture, then of course use a 9-patch. If it's a border, use a 9-patch drawable so that it scales nicely across all screen sizes without pixelized. Would be the easiest way, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Okay. Any last questions from the audience? No. Then one final one from me, Rich. Just out of curiosity, what do you do all day as a Google Android developer?
As a Google Android developer advocate, what do I do all day? Most of my day, well, I'm supposed to split my day 50-50, but definitely a big chunk of it is answering email. A lot of my day is working with partners, top-tier partners, innovative partners, to get awesome apps, into the Google Play Store. So we work with them and their developers, offering up guidance on best practices and design. We're happy to review designs and things like that. So that's about a third of my work, and a third of it is just general email and upkeep, and then the other third is working for yourselves, for developers, writing developer.android.com/training classes, writing material for Google I/O, which is coming up soon, is my main focus right now, doing events like this. I did another one last week, doing the Hangouts and the office hours. This is the part of the job that's the most rewarding, and that I enjoy the most is working with developers. I mean, before I joined Google, which was only about 18 months ago, I was an Android developer for the 3 years before that, since the start of Android.
Do you have any vacancies?
Not in Holland, but you know. It's always just go to google.com/jobs or have a web search for Google Developer Relations jobs. There's always things coming up. We had less so for Android, but for Google Plus, Google TV, things like that, there's jobs listed on the site globally. Yeah, and it's quite fun. The company treats you well.
Okay, well, thanks much. That was it. We will now continue with our program over here, Rich.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for joining.
Have an awesome open space meetup. I hope it goes really well for you. And I'll sign off now and let you carry on. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.